everyone, welcome back to Broadway Corner with Ashley Haw. I'm so happy you are here. Today I am talking to two of the swings from the Broadway show K-pop, and they are half of the K-pop Broadway swing team. It's Patrick Park and Tim Haechan Lee. Yay!
Woo!
Yay. So here I'll do a little introduction. So Patrick made his Broadway debut in K-pop, but has been in regional productions such as Mythic and Prom Queen, the musical, and The Louder We Get. And for TV film, it's in bestsellers and K-pop star. And Patrick is also a member of East to West, a dance group. With a following of over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, which I mean that's quite a lot. And Tim also made his Broadway debut in K-pop, and he's been in shows such as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Newsies, Mamma Mia, Shrek the Musical, and Evita. And Tim is a NYU Steinhardt vocal performance master's graduate and a CSU Fullerton BFA graduate, which is super cool. And we'll get to talking to that later. So hi, Patrick and Tim. So nice to see you both again. How are you?
Oh my God, so good. So happy to be talking to you, literal legend.
How are you, Ashley? Thanks for having us.
Good. It's in the middle of winter break, kind of everything hopefully slowing down just for these 2 weeks until the new year starts, and we'll obviously all have to get back to working really
Oh
hard
my
again.
God.
Um, Going back all the way to the beginning, so when did you both begin performing? Like, was it something that you loved to do ever since you were little? Was it something that you discovered later, like James, or I don't know, just anything you want to add regarding how you got started?
I started performing really late, actually. I moved to the States when I was 11, not thinking I was gonna perform. My parents just took me here, brought me here with the Great American Dream.
Hmm.
And um I was at a very white dominant area. So all my friends were I didn't have a lot of Asian American friends. So I was kind of bullied a lot in middle school when I first moved here because of my ethnic and because I couldn't speak any language or any English. So after I, started trying to get along with a lot of people, theater community in high school was the only community, only group, like a theater group in high school was the only group that didn't really, bullied me or put me, shove me away. So I was able to get along with them. That's how I really got introduced to theater, and I wasn't really going to do it for life, but it just so happened like I started performing in school. I started doing um, theater, and it became so fun. And at like I think I remember like at end of junior year, going into the senior year, I was like, I want to do this. So I started applying for all the colleges really, really late, and then Cal State Fullerton accepted me, and then I started my training there. So basically, when I started going into college, that's when I started performing musical theater. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's how I got it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And for you, Patrick?
Whoa. Yeah, for me, I mean, I also kind of started, I guess, late. I mean, I did like little theater things, like never like a play necessarily, but I would do like maybe like improv or fun little, like the types of activities you do in like theater classes, like when you're a kid, like games and sort of like icebreaker things and break out of your shell games. And I really loved that. And I didn't really even know that that lived under the label theater, but I would do that, or like I would like to like perform skits with my friends and stuff. So um I really enjoyed doing that. And then when I got to high school, I signed up for like the school play. I did maybe like one or two of them. But I never really thought of it in terms of, and like I don't know. I think I had like stowed away this dream somewhere in my head of like wanting to be an actor, because I watched like those Disney Channel shows, and I always thought like, oh, I want to be like them, but like never took it seriously enough to like think I could do it or whatever, or to really be like, oh, that's a job I want. I never thought of it in that way. But then I did my first musical in grade 10. Um, and I remember distinctly doing it, like finishing, I guess maybe our first show or something, and I was like, whoa, this is what I want to do. This is it. Something clicked in a way that like I like plays. I still like plays and stuff and doing those, but in a way that when I did musical theater, like nothing really clicked like that. Um so yeah, that's when I sort of started. And I don't know if I would say that I started like training then, but I guess that's just when I started doing it a little more seriously and with a little more like intention. So I only started like singing and trying to like dance and stuff when I was around around like 15 years old or something.
Yeah, I think for me that's like similar to me as I started like singing in high school because I like had the complete opposite of what most theater kids do, where most people are like saw one show at age 5 and then it was all over. Like for me, it was totally opposite. Like it was mostly Hamilton.
Good. Oh my
Just, like
God. What a show to
I
grow up
was
with.
What a show to begin your
like
dream.
For
yeah, I
real.
was like, listening to the album first and then getting like surprise tickets and, just something completely, I guess for all three of us, kind of a little bit of a different theater kid experience of getting into musical theater and performing where, it's obviously haven't been, I guess, training since age 5 like Kate, but we still obviously have the same love for it, which is obviously the best thing that you can have in this industry is just the passion. And for
Hmm.
both of you, like when did you get involved with K-pop? Like I know for James it was kind of the workshops, and for Kate it was like, genuinely seeing like the video that she posted and just like completely unique experiences. So what was it? How did you get involved?
I think I was a junior in college. My professor told me there's this show called K-pop, and I was in LA, so I it was I think they were auditioning for the off-Broadway one, so they flew to LA to audition people, and I went to the audition and I got the sides, and it was like I think it was one of those, like I've never auditioned for a new musical. I've always auditioned for like the old ones, like the classics or like the ones that's the original theater ones. So it was so weird to see Korean on the sides and like reading Korean language and reading Korean, singing in Korean, rapping in Korean. It was so cool. But that was my first time hearing about it, and I completely blew that audition. It was so bad. I remember driving to that audition in Burbank, and I was like, oh my God, like I already knew, like I was like, oh my gosh, this, like, how can they not pick me? I'm like, I'm perfect for this show. How, there's no way they cannot choose me. And then I went and I completely blew the audition, and I never heard from them back again.
Oh no.
Many years later. Yeah. So that was my first encounter with K-pop, and I started like hating it. I was like, they don't like me. I don't like them. Yep.
Yeah, when did you first like hear about the show, Patrick?
Um, I So I was doing a show in Montreal. I was doing Mythic, and it was like 2019. I like just graduated school, and then I saw the open call for it, and it was kind of being posted everywhere. And then the people in my community were sending it to me, being like, "You should definitely submit for this." And I'd never heard of it before, and so I looked into it a little bit, and it was at the time it was really hard to find like a lot of info about the show, so I kind of had to like deep dive into the internet and watch videos. Like I watched all of Helen's like 54 Below concert,
Oh yeah.
where they were singing like all the Fate songs and some of the
Dave's
Artemis stuff. Like,
crumping.
yeah, James Crumping. Like I watched all of that stuff, trying to figure out like what it was. So yeah, I sent in a tape for it for the open call in like November or something, November 2019, I think. And I sang a K-pop song. I sang one of what did I sing? I sang like Letting Go by Day 6. And I similarly, I think I was like feeling a little maybe entitled about it. I was like, oh man, this is my bag. Like, East to West is a K-pop cover group. And I was like, and K-pop and musical theater, man, that's my thing. That's like my little corner. So I can do this. I recorded the tape, and it was just awful. It was just an awful tape that I recorded. And it was, yeah, I felt like it was so bad. And then I sent in like a bunch of my East to West videos with the tape. I was like, please look at them. I do a lot of K-pop. Yeah, so which I ended up that started my audition process, which there ended up being a lot of auditions after that for the show. But that was essentially how I'd first heard about it, was through the open call.
Hmm.
Because I also was in Canada. I'm from Canada, and I was living in Canada at the time. So also this was like kind of far out from me. So they weren't necessarily, um, this wasn't in my community. So I also kind of was thinking like, oh, like why would they ever choose me? I'm kind of like random. I'm this random person from Canada. Certainly they can find someone in the States or in New York or whatever. But ended up working out okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely ended up working out okay. And I guess what was your like I guess actual audition process like, Tim? Like Because I think you were part of like the workshops and stuff. Like, how did that kind of, I guess you'd call audition process? Because I know for you guys, it wasn't quite the traditional thing that you hear about normally. So
Yeah, I remember. So after that, the audition that I blew back in 2018, 2017, my agent called me again and he's like, "Hey, I think they're looking for one more. They're looking for swings this time. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And back then, this was the summer of 2021. So I was back in Korea because it was during summer, and I was doing my master's program for NYU through Zoom.
mm,
And so I was in Korea, and the the material that they asked us to do for that audition was just insane. Like the amount of work that we had to do. I don't know if Patrick, because we auditioned for the same thing and we started at the same time. It was just so many, like it was like three different sides because I was auditioning for all of Fate and the role of Junie.
mm-hmm.
And it was just all the sites for Fates, all the sites for Junie, all the songs, Hangul known for Fates, and like two dance videos, like the dance video they sent me, and the free K-pop dance video that I have to like. It was just a lot.
Mm.
I was doing all that in Korea, and then I didn't hear back from them for like a month, and then but then it was also I sent them with like the YouTube unlisted videos, and I see the counts going up are watching me, but why aren't they calling me? And so it was a lot of angst. And then I came to New York in the fall, and then they asked me to send them another video, and I sent them another video, and then I think they sent me to send in another dance video, and then so I filmed another dance video. So it's like it was like a constant like back and forth. They want to see me, but they haven't even seen me in real life. And then finally, I think this was like a sixth call. They told me to come to Ripley Greer to audition in person. It was like they said it was the final callback.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in and I was waiting in the elevator, and he became a really good friend of mine. This guy comes in with the purple hair, and it was so obvious that he was auditioning for K-pop, right? And I was like, oh my god, he's auditioning, and I was just like, just stupid me, and I was just like in my bag, and it was cold, so it was like, and then I got into the elevator with him, and then we were just warming up, and it was crazy because I thought there would be like 20 people at the final callback, but it was just him and I,
Oh.
and we just had a really good time. I think the entire audition took like 5 hours. We were dancing, singing, and acting like constantly. They were switching us off, and it was just yeah. And then that was my final call. Um, and then I joined the workshop. So I think it was the most brutal and long audition I had to go through. But at the end of the day, it was worth it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
That's quite a lot of videos. Oh my goodness. Like
So,
that. I mean,
I,
self-tapes are already such a pain, but to have to do like one after the other, like cannot imagine. And for you, Patrick, like what was, I guess, your I guess final audition process like?
My final audition process. So, I mean, I guess Tim, maybe this was the case for you too, but like, I was auditioning during the pandemic, so I sent in like a bunch of tapes, and during that time, I was just sending it in for general Fate stuff. I only found out later that there was like a mixed race character in Fate, but I was reading for like Junhyuk stuff, and I don't speak Korean, like I speak it like a 2-year-old, you know what I mean? So like. I literally got my Korean friend to like record the lines for me because I was like, I'll show them that I'll learn it and stuff. So I was reading like Junhyuk's lines, and auditioning with those. And so I taped from like November. I sent in like 3 tapes between November and August, like 2019, 2020. And then they were sort of like, well, we can't have you come in for our final callback because we're still like peak pandemic. So it took like they were basically like, please hold. And then a whole year went by before I finally did my final callback. Um, and my final callback, I had to go to New York to do a dance call, and mine was with like quite a few people. And I think I was in the mix of people who were none of the people that I were there were people who were in the show, but they, from what I could tell just visually, it felt like they were maybe auditioning like a lot of people for Fate and Brad at the same time because I could tell there was a lot of other mixed race homies there in the room, which was cool, which was already a really cool experience. But yeah, so we did a dance call with our choreographer Jen. We did the choreography to Hundero, which at the time was called K-Popsicle. And so we did the choreo to that. And at that point too, they had changed my audition to specifically so that I'd be auditioning for Brad, which at the time his name was Epic. So I went in and did the dance call, and then they called me back to come in later that day to sing and do the sides and stuff. And I met the whole team. That was my first time meeting the whole team in person. Otherwise, I'd only sort of interacted with them briefly on Zoom, which was kind of a, Zoom auditions are super kind of weird. But yeah, so I don't know. I felt like I was like audition purgatory with the show, like for a long time. And so finally, when I finally got to the in-person, that was like the final callback. I was like, please. And then they took like 3 or 4 weeks to get back to me, and I was just like dying. It felt like the longest time. And then I found out that, then I found out that I booked it in like August 2020, and then I did the workshop with Tim, and then we did Broadway together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh my God. Long audition process, like it's just, tape after tape and then like waiting to hear back. Like I can't even imagine like what you guys must have felt like, because for you to have like such a strong connection, it's not just like another show, it's like specifically about your culture and about some like a part of yourself. So it's like you want it so bad, just like everyone else who probably, either mixed race or Korean or any other, Asian American or Asian people. Like this show, I'm sure, like it just had like probably a different energy of just, the necessity to be in it rather than just auditioning for, another Broadway show or just like something like that. And like, did you have like, what was your reaction, I guess, to booking the show? Because I know like sometimes people will like either record people like getting the call and crying on the ground or like, doing stuff like that. Like, did you have a moment like that, or were you just kind of like calm, like, oh my, okay, we're gonna do this? Like, what was that story, I guess?
I okay, I have 2 different stories, because there was one for the one call I got for workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a call that I got separately for Broadway. Because
Mm-hmm.
when we got the job for workshop, the contract said going to Broadway, but we all knew we were still not 100% sure if we were going to Broadway, because we've never done out of town. We've never done like we didn't even release album. Nobody knew about this, not the off Broadway, but the on stage version of K-pop the Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the call for the workshop, I was actually in the middle of rehearsal for Christmas Story tour. I was in halfway through the rehearsal, and my agent calls me in the middle of my 5. I was taking my 5, and my agent was like, "Tim, you gotta get out of there." I was like, "Wait, what's going on?" I'm like, "Tim, like, we booked K-pop," and I was like, "But I have to go on tour in like a week. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, no, no. Like, this is Broadway we're talking about. I was like, "Okay, all right." And then I just went to the rehearsal room. I packed, and I told them, "I'm so sorry. My agent will talk to you guys, but like, no." But I was so scared that they would hate me.
Oh my
All
God.
Yeah, even though it was like a non-union tour, but it was still like a big production. They've been doing this show for like 6 years. And like one of the producer from that show came to see our K-pop Broadway, and he was like, "Yeah, like he was really chill about it." He was like, "Good thing that you left to do this." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." But yeah, that was joining uh the workshop version, which I really didn't have time to like record myself. I wish I could have.
Mm-hmm.
Um and after the workshop was over, our workshop kind of ended in kind of like weird way because of COVID. Like we all got COVID at the end,
Oh,
so we couldn't even do our like the second part of workshop. We only did the first part because
mm-hmm.
2 days, and it just ended like, and then we didn't even know if we were going to Broadway. It was like weird, and like I definitely didn't know I was gonna get the contract for Broadway, because in my contract for the workshop, I didn't have the form that said if we end up going to Broadway, you're going to Broadway. And a lot of other people did already have that, and I knew that I didn't. I was like one of like 1 or 2 people who didn't have that contract. So I was like really, oh, we have 10 minutes. So I
Yeah.
was really I was scared. I was scared that I thought they might leave me, or
Mm.
they might hire swings that are just more experienced. So that is course from end of December to early January. That was just like they didn't contact me or reach me. I couldn't even contact them because I was like too scared. And um yeah, and I didn't even know if I was gonna go to Broadway. And then I think it was, I still remember January 7, 2022. My agent actually set up a meeting with me saying like she completely tricked me. She was like, we are going to have a meeting for your future and how 2023 is gonna look like, and we are going to talk about like what we're gonna do, like the auditions we're gonna do and the callbacks. And it was like, yeah, sure. And then I go into the Zoom meeting, and like it's recording and everything too. So it is in recording. And I always record my meetings with my agents just in case anything happens.
Mhm.
That's it. Like always do that because you never know what's gonna happen, especially over the Zoom. Um, so I was doing that, and crazy thing was Julie was inside the Zoom call, and I was like, "Why are you?" Because back then Julie and I were in the same agency. I was like, "Why is Julie here?" And it was just like weird. And she's like, and then that's when they told me I'm going to Broadway, and like I started like crying, and I started like, yeah, that was quite experience. It was like the day I'll never forget. Definitely making my
Yeah.
receiving that notice about making my Broadway debut, but
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like the fact that you and Julie like both have, I'm guessing like a recording somewhere, like,
yeah,
oh,
Julie
that's like
wanted to be there to
unique.
surprise me. Yeah,
Yeah.
she
Oh,
was.
that's so sweet. Yeah, and for you, Patrick, like, did you have a moment like this, or did you, was it totally opposite of what you think? I don't know, whatever you wanna.
Sort of. I mean, I feel like my audition process had been such a long process, and also like it's the kind of thing like Ashley, I think sort of like what you were saying, like it was such a because it was such a unique show, and because like it was about I felt so connected to it because I'm Korean, because I'm mixed race, whatever. Like I really wanted it, and I felt like I had a really good shot at it. Like I put a lot of things aside for it, just for the maybe of getting this show. I was auditioning for it forever, and I was getting I had a couple like offers here and there to do shows like in Canada or like whatever, and I kept turning them down because I was like, if K-pop calls and I am not available, I will never forgive myself. So I like put a lot aside for it, and I really held out for it. So I got I got the news. I was actually in Vancouver. I was staying with my uncle at the time, um, on my dad's side, which is my Korean side. So I was visiting my Korean side of my family in Vancouver, um, and I got the call from my agents like while I was there. I remember just going actually like kind of like full numb. I was like, huh? Like I don't know how to process this. What the heck is going on? Like, and I walked out of the room. I remember walking out of my room, and my uncle was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I just booked K-pop. I'm gonna be on Broadway. He was like, "What?" And he freaked out, but I couldn't like process a thing. But it was really special, and he like immediately was like, "Let's go celebrate." So we went out and got like cake and stuff. And that night was actually really special too because he had like this old bottle, I think of like whiskey or something that my grandpa had given to him, and and my grandpa passed away a few years ago, but he was like, your grandpa gave this to me to like open on like my wedding day. He's like, but this is more special. Let's open it now. So
Oh,
we opened it together, and we had like a little drink together to celebrate, which is really cool. Um, yeah, yeah. So that was sort of my reaction. I don't know, I didn't know how I expected to feel. I think I wanted to be on Broadway since I was like a teenager. As soon as I found out what Broadway was, I was like, that's the one. I want to do that. And so I think when it finally like I got that when it was happening, I was like, I just didn't know how to process it. So I was like a little winded by the whole thing, to be honest. But once it all simmered down, I don't know, I think I was like, is this really happening? Is this really real? Is this really real? And then only when I got to the rehearsal room, for the workshop, I was like, whoa, it's all happening. That's crazy.
No, it's so cool that your uncle was like, this is, obviously probably one of the most special moments of your entire life, getting to fulfill a dream that, you're kind of like, you really hope it happens, but you don't know. I mean, obviously I have that dream still, and gonna probably have it for decades probably. But yeah, I mean, that's just really, really nice to hear that you both had like kind of cool moments where it's just like, okay, it's actually coming true. Like this is happening. And for it to be with a show like K-pop to make your Broadway debut, I mean, I think that's probably very, very special and just like an experience that obviously not very many people got to have, but to be in a show that's so connected to you and connected to culture and everything, and just as a performer getting to dance. I mean, you, Patrick, being in like a dance group, or for Tim, like, working so hard for the stream. I think that's like very cool that you got to be a part of the show K-pop, which is, obviously a very special show to everyone. And so, can you both talk us through like your first time going on? Because I know you guys had a big COVID hit, and it was very unique experience for both of you, I think. So, like, how did you react to the call or text, whatever? What, like, which track was it for telling everyone listening? And how did it feel to make your Broadway debut? I know, Tim, like your
I
face
mean,
is saying everything.
let's go with Patrick first, because let's
Okay,
go in order because he went on first.
okay.
I
Is that
did. I
And
feel
okay?
like
like we need
what,
to.
I guess also when did it happen? Like, first weekend or whatever. Just kind of give us all the details, I guess.
Yes. So you know what? I feel like honestly we need to talk about this whole week because this whole
Yeah,
week
I
was
know.
insane.
It's like crazy.
So this was like, I don't know, like our second or third, maybe not second, maybe like our third week into previews because we had a long like 5.5 week preview period
Mhm.
or something like that. Something crazy. Which like normally is not, from my understanding, like a thing. Like it's usually like
No,
a couple
no.
weeks of previews, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's not that normal. It's pretty abnormal. Anyway, so I guess you won't mind me saying this because it'll be pretty obvious. But James was the first actor during our previews during our show run to get COVID,
Mhm.
and I was his quote unquote first cover. So James tested positive for COVID on like a Monday, which is good for me because that was on our day off. And so
Yeah.
I woke up, I was like perfectly, fine. Sunday night, I was sleeping, sleeping, sleeping. And then I woke up on Mondays, like all these texts being like, "Are you okay? Da 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 da. Call me." I think like Josh was one of the first people to call me. He's like, "I need to talk to you." Um, and then like through the grapevine, essentially, I'd ended up hearing like, "Oh, James has COVID," and James texted me this himself. It wasn't like a secret. He was like, "Hey, I tested positive. Like, do you need anything?" Essentially, and I was like, "Huh, like I just woke up. What are you talking about?" So and then eventually the stage managers contact me and were like, "So you'll be on for Wuyeon tomorrow. How are you feeling? Yada yada yada." And I felt pretty lucky because Wuyeon was one of the characters that I had been paying pretty close attention to. We had this sheet given to all the swings at the beginning of the process that essentially like was like, here's who you should learn first, and it was kind of like more suggested than, because I mean it's unpredictable. Like you can learn someone first, but then if you're the person you're set to learn third calls out, then there's nothing you can do. But this is who they suggested. So James was one of those people for me that they suggested I learn first. So I followed that. So I felt lucky, and I was like, not easy peasy necessarily, but there was enough time to plan. There was enough time for me to look over my stuff, and we had the whole next day to rehearse. And they were like, "We're gonna do a put in for all the Fate stuff, so don't worry."
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, and so I was the only swing on that day, um, and yeah, I honestly thought that I'd be such a wreck, and I mean like because I was like, oh my god, this full circle moment is finally happening. I'm finally going on, and I think the swings at that point had been pretty antsy to go on, and we were kind of getting worried, like, will we be ready? Da 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 da. Um, and yeah, I honestly I kept it together a lot better than I thought. I went through the show and um I just did it, and I felt like I was on fire. I felt crazy. I felt like but I felt very, very supported by the whole group, which was awesome. And at that time too, like our swing costumes were starting to get ready. So I got to show like my Fate costumes, and I had to wear one of James's stuff too, which felt kind of fun because I was like I got a little piece of James to like represent him.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and I think yeah, I felt like I kept it together a lot. I managed to be just like, oh, we're doing a show. Yeah, this is chill. We're doing a show. And I think honestly, the moment I like lost it, it's all recorded too, is when I was sitting in the little quick change area just like after the show was done, and like I was like really slowly getting changed and stuff, and I like finally went out in my robes, and all the swings are right outside the quick change area, and we just hugged, and we were all sobbing together.
Aw.
And there's this really cute video of it. I think it's like in my like my featured stories or whatever on Instagram somewhere. But that I think that was like that was the moment when it like hit me that I was like, oh my God, that was my debut on Broadway. Oh my God, all the hard work I did kind of went into this, became that performance, you know? Um, so yeah, it was really really great, and I had a lot of friends who were able to show up that day, which I mean feels really special, especially for me because you know, I'm from Canada, so I don't have a huge network of people beyond the show like in New York, but a lot of the people I do have there showed up for my Broadway debut, which was really really special, and they waited afterwards, and yeah, it made me feel really really special, and I felt just yeah so supported. And that was just day one. The week got a lot crazier after that. So the next day, our dear Julia Bueva tested positive for COVID. So Marina had to go in for Sonoma.
Mhm.
And then the next day something else happened, and that's where I'll pass it off to Tim.
Yeah, I think it was, what is it, Thursday? So that week was
Yeah.
just like boom, 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 boom. But it was crazy because nobody tested positive, no more than 2 people positive like in a row, you know?
Yeah.
So we got very lucky. And so Tuesday, James went home. Wednesday, Julia went home. And then Thursday morning, we found out that it wasn't like Patrick's story where like I got all the calls like and like because nobody thought I'd go on really.
Yeah.
And because so Major got COVID and the camera op, and so I was told that he got COVID and it was around because it was a Thursday show. He got he got tested and he notified the stage managers around like 1 or 2 p.m. right? And it was just crazy because we were all like, I was like, wait, what? And stage manager, I was inside the building. No, actually, I was grabbing lunch with my friend, and that's when the stage manager called me and was like, hey, I know it's very simple, but do you know the camera op track? And I was like, no, I don't. Because in that sheet that Patrick talked about in the early, I wasn't supposed to learn that track. It wasn't on my list, so I didn't learn it on purpose because I had 8 other many busy roles to cover, and so I was not even thinking about that. And I thought it was Patrick, Lena, and Marina's cover. So naturally, I just thought it was, you know, not my job.
Mhm.
And uh, so it felt weird that the fact that they called me, it's like when they call me, you just know, it's like, wait, why, right? Like when like the manager's name popped on your phone, it's like, why? It's not me. It should
Your heart
be
races. You see their name, you're like, oh
like,
no.
it's like, it should be, because, okay, so Patrick's on for whatever, James, Marina's on for Julia, so it must be Lena. And that was my thought process, that Lena should go on this camera. And they call me, and I was like, huh? And they told me to go on. Many mixed feelings, obviously, because obviously I wanted to debut on Broadway as a role that I've been preparing for, and another thing is I want to do Fate, you know, that was that, or Junie, like I want to do something, you know. Camera Up is a great role, like don't get me wrong, it's such a fun role, it's such a fun track, and it gets all the laughs too. It's such a big and crucial part of the role, but just because it wasn't something that I was preparing for, and it wasn't something that I was looking up to at that point. It was very mixed feelings of like, wait, I finally get to make the Broadway debut, but at the same time, like, wait, what the hell? Like, what's going on? Like, what is this? Like, so I walk into the dressing room and everybody's like there. It's like, oh my gosh, Tim, are you okay? And like, is everything okay? And I was like, I don't know. And some people even came up to me and they're like, do you even want to be congratulated? Which I thought, like looking back, it was like, you shouldn't have said that. But you know, it's still a Broadway debut, and it's a great opportunity. And
Mhm.
so I got there around 2:30. I learned the camera up track, like boom 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 boom. And it's actually pretty complicated than it looks. And yeah, and I think Patrick and I had a lot of conversation about this. We talked a lot. I mean, like we shared the same dressing room. Like, even a week before this whole crazy week begun, we were constantly saying like, yeah, like this feeling of like wanting to perform. Like everybody says swinging is like the best job because you don't get to perform and you still get the money. But like we weren't really vibing with that because we wanted to perform. Like we felt the
Yeah.
purpose to be in that room to do our job,
Mm-hmm.
not just get our money. So we were all like, as Patrick said, we were all angst to do this show. And you know, and also like seeing Patrick do a great job and like being congratulated on Tuesday, seeing Marina do amazing job and being congratulated, and then on Thursday it's my turn. I'm like holding a camera, and I just like at that point it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what made it feel right was that, despite of everything that's happened, again after I've done the track, after the show, all the swings were there to congratulate me once again. Everybody, the team and the crew and the cast was so supportive, and it's just like everybody was like, yeah, I know, and like we know what you're going through, but excuse me, you know what we're going through, but just know that like without you the show can't go on. So like and it quite literally meant it was so true. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was my Broadway debut. And then I was like complaining about it like all day. I was like, I'm so sad I don't get to do Fate. And then the next day, what happened, Patrick?
Oh my God. Yeah, not for nothing either. Me, Major, James, and Tim all share one dressing room. So me and Tim we're like, oh, TikTok, I hope we don't get COVID. Like
Yeah.
which we didn't end up getting sick. So,
That's
thank
like
you,
a miracle
universe.
in itself.
Literally, I was like, of course it's our dressing room.
Yeah.
But so Friday rolls around, and this is when it really all goes crazy because I guess at this point Tim had done one show as camera op. I had about like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 shows in as Bouillon. And I mean, what I was sort of looking forward to at this point, and I mean, maybe this is like anybody to get comfortable in the role, is like when, like because of COVID, someone's going to be out for up to 10 days, right? So I was looking forward to being like, oh, I'm going to get this track in my body and we're gonna feel good and like da 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 da. So the night before, I remember after Tim's Broadway debut, we were standing outside the theater and we were there really late because I think we were talking for a long time, and then we both separately get a phone call from our stage manager, and we're like, "Rutro, what's going on now?" And basically, I had got the call that I got was saying like, "Hey, um, Zach's not feeling super well. Like he might be out tomorrow, which would mean that you'd go on as Brad." And I was like, interesting. What are we thinking here? And they were like, it seems like it's about like a 50-50 chance. And so how that went on to Tim is that they were sort of saying, hey Tim, if Zach goes out, then you'd have to become Wooyan. So do you know it? Da, 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 da. So we're outside the theater. We look at each other. We're like, what do we do? And so the next day for me, they had sort of in the morning they had booked, just in case, they had booked me like a rehearsal with Abby so that we could run the Brad and Harry stuff, and they gave me a music session with our music director Sujin to like go over Brad's music. And with no, they were like, we're gonna let you know tomorrow. We're not sure when. I was like, ooh, okay. So Tim was also being kept waiting in this scenario. And so during this time, like I'm kind of like, okay, I think I know Brad well enough. I could do this. And I go the next day, I do the music, I do the stage rehearsal, and then I get to the music room, and for whatever reason, I just have like, I don't know, my brain was just in a weird place, and I was just like having a really hard time. And I felt like I was doing a really bad job in the music rehearsal, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And Sujin could tell I was having like a bit of a hard time, that I was getting in my head. She was like, you know what? It's okay. Don't worry. Because there was official word given to me and to her. They're like, Zach's coming in. Don't worry, Zach's coming in. I was like, bless, you know what? Good. I have time to sit with this. Then they call a full company meeting, and our director Teddy was like, so everybody, tonight Luna's feeling ill. So Amy's gonna go on for Luna. And we're like, huh? And then they go, Zach's feeling ill, so Patrick will be Brad. I was like, huh? Okay, so Tim will be Wooyan, Marina will go on as Sonoma, and then Lena that night made her Broadway debut as Ivy.
Oh my God.
And Lena has her own journey with that. Lena, because the way this dripped down to her, this whole maybe who's gonna call out situation was that if I became Brad and Tim became Wooyan, Lena would become camera operator.
Oh
So
yeah.
Lena, they told Lena too, and so she was kind of preparing for all this stuff. Anyway, but Lena now had to go be an Artemis member. And so a stage manager, Jason DePinto, a freaking amazing stage manager, became became the camera operator. So it was this whole trickle down effect, which was nuts. And I remember like this meeting was maybe at like 4 p.m., you know, for like an 8 p.m. show or something. And like we immediately started to put in like right after that meeting. They were like, as soon as that meeting ended, they were like, okay, get in your full show gear, like time to run the show essentially. And I just sobbed. I sat there because I was like, I'm gonna do a bad job. Oh my god, I'm not ready. What the heck is going on? And it was a really busy day. I mean, I don't know. So that's how I felt. I felt kind of terrified, but I felt also like I was like, I just have to do this. This is what it is. This is the situation. So I was going like truly like wiping away tears the whole time, being like, okay, putting on my mic. I was like, this is my code. Yeah. Like trying to like get my stuff together. But I don't know what it was like for you, Tim.
I don't know.
That's
I
what
mean, it was the same. Again, James Leon part. I mean, I'm glad I got the notice from the night before, but it was again the 50-50 and like and then it became 80 and then became 90. I was like, what in the world are like what are we doing? And I again Uyong is because Uyon role is on the top of the list for Patrick, that means Uyon is on the bottom.
Lower, yeah.
Bro, again, here comes the mixed feeling. Why can't I debut with like the part that I've been practicing? Like it's all like just my you know. Looking back at it, it was all about just like me instead of trying to save the show. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, when we truly did save the show, none of that really mattered because we see the audience like truly loving the show, and we see the impact that we've made. And I think that's like one of the greatest thing about being a swing is you never know what's gonna happen until we make that final bow and go back to our dressing room and we're just like, whoa, what just happened? Right. But getting up to that journey is just like it's probably one of the hardest thing ever. I mean, like we're constantly told what we're gonna do differently. And our mind has to be like, it already is so hard to focus on one track to be like, okay, tonight or today I'm just gonna focus on this. But no, you're just gonna switch the other track, it constantly happens like that. So yeah, that week was just insanity, but also I'm so proud of our swing team, especially like and bring in Jason dependent bring him into our swing group because like he is also amazing. But we were just all there for each other. We supported one another. And I'm glad that the show wasn't canceled due to that. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Amy, who had to constantly go on for Mui's track with very, very short notice. And I think that's what we learned, like getting like because Patrick got a Monday notice for a Tuesday show. We all thought that was the norm, but that was actually not a norm. That was a
That was the
luxury.
exception.
Yeah. Every track after all the ones we've gotten was like 3 hour to 4 hour notice. So yeah, it's been crazy.
That was our Broadway debut week.
That was our Broadway debut. Yeah, that was our Broadway debut.
Yeah,
2 roles each.
I remember like seeing Instagram stories and posts like Amy's on his Wii, like, you know, Jason going on his camera up, but like getting to kind of relive, I guess, for you guys, like each day by day, like I'm sure, you know, you were just like both so nervous, but also like excited and like, okay, this is gonna be, you know, happening. And then, oh, I'm doing a track I never thought I would ever do. And like, just real quick, like how many tracks did you both cover and like how many did you actually get to play?
I covered a total of 9 tracks in the show, and I did 3. I did camera operator, Uyon, and I did Timmy X.
And then for you, Patrick, like how many did you cover?
Yeah.
How many did you go on?
I covered 8 roles, and I also went on as 3. I did Wuyan first, and then I did Brad, and then I did Sky.
And then which role, I guess, would you wanted to have played if you could have had the chance before, you know, the closing?
Definitely Junhyuk. I mean, that was my very, very first cover, and that's the role that I did in the workshop when Kevin got COVID. I had to be the one who was doing the presentation. So it takes a very special place in my heart. So I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't get to do that role. Maybe one day.
Next time. Next time.
Yeah, maybe
Next time.
next time.
We're just gonna
Feel
keep
like-
saying that until it happens.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I was really looking forward to do Timmy X because I just loved his rap parts.
Oh my
I
God,
would have
and
loved to do Timmy X.
Patrick's so good at it.
Oh my
Patrick's
God.
so good at Korean rap.
They would gas me up so much for my Korean rapping. I had such a comp. I was like, I guess I gotta go on. But I think I mean, I don't know if I was like, I think Timmy X is just really fun because the rapping and stuff, and like he's got all these fun dance bits that I would have loved to try. But I also would have been excited to try Harry, to just like have a run at that and see what that would feel like. But yeah, so those two parts would have been fun. Next time.
I think that also, like, I think if you wouldn't have gone on as Harry, it maybe would have changed, the dynamic of like,
Yeah.
with the like. I wonder how that would have played out because I kept thinking about that because there's only one white cast member in the entire show, so it's like if it were to be played by someone who's also Asian, like how would that change? Whether it's like I guess
Totally.
played as an Asian American person compared to just Asian or just I don't
Hmm.
know. That's just so fascinating, and hopefully maybe it can happen next time as well. And for you
Hopefully.
guys, was this both of your first times like as a swing in a show? Because I know there's some people on Broadway, it's like swinging is like their thing. They're always in whatever they do, they're always a swing. But was this both of your first times? And like, what was it like having to learn so many different parts that are all very unique? I mean, K-pop obviously is a very formation driven like thing, and having to know exactly where everyone is at each time. So like, I don't know, I guess just what was that like?
It's my second time swinging. I was a swing at the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And that was
Sorry, there's like a dog like barking. There's
that was easier.
All barks are welcome.
Yeah, all dogs are welcome here. That was easier compared to K-pop because K-pop is nothing like any other musical theater show there ever was, truly. And I think looking back at it, K-pop was a really good reminder that I do have the swing brain. We know more than we think we know. Like our brain can absorb more than what we think that we can do. And when we're really put on the spot, because that's what swinging is about, like you're just like thrown into the jungle and you have to survive on your own. And it's kind of thrilling, but also scary, but also like you also get to really like this is what Patrick told me when I was so sad about my debut. Patrick said we get to have 9 Broadway debuts, and we get to have 8 Broadway debuts for each roles that we do. And I think that is just one of the most fascinating thing and one of the most exciting thing about being a swing. And this is what our choreographer Jen told me is like, if you have K-pop as a swing on your resume, or if you've done it, you have nothing to be afraid of, because as a choreographer, I think she really thought this was a challenge to make too. And learning basically every position in the dance group, it's rough. So I'm very proud of us for going through it, pushing through it. I really wish we could have done all the tracks, so we really lived that like the work that we really put in as a swing gets paid off. But yeah, we still had a great time, right, Patrick?
Yeah. I mean, it was like you said, it was complicated, but I mean, it was also exhilarating and like adrenaline rush all the time. It was really something. But yeah, for myself, I'd never swung before. I'm from like the theater community I come from is like very small. Like we didn't do understudies or swings. It was like super regional. Like someone gets sick, you figure it out. You know what I mean? So that's the theater background I come from. So in my community, there weren't even really jobs like that. So this is my first time. And I had no idea what I was doing at any point. I was like literally like, what is going on here? And yeah, truly couldn't have done it without yeah, and obviously because K-pop is such a tough show, but we couldn't have done it without not only each other, but like Eddie is such a great dance
Oh,
captain, and from his swing experience on Hamilton,
Uh,
he was able to provide like such good advice, and Marina as well as our associate dance captain and assistant dance captain, who basically did as much work as Eddie. And not that I'm not saying that to say that Eddie did less work. Eddie did a lot of work, and Marina did a ton of work. They were like yeah, they both worked so hard, and Marina, has this experience working as an understudy in another big production, in Frozen. So they were just such a great team and helped us with everything, because I think the challenging part of being a swing is that like it's not like you're really told what to do at any given time. No one tells you like, okay, learn Brad, and then okay, you can stop learning Brad now. Why don't you start learning Genie Hawk or whatever? Like you really just have to do it yourself. And so yeah, I felt super lost through the whole thing. I had no idea what I was doing, and I think without the guidance I got and the support that I got, I truly don't know if I would have been able to do it. Um, but yeah, it's a crazy job. It's a crazy job.
yeah, it really is. But I mean, you both, obviously got to debut and got to be in this crazy, crazy complicated show. I mean, I remember like I think it was about like a week before, they announced like closing or whatever. Like I literally had a dream that I was a swing for like Artemis. And I was like,
Come
wait,
true.
what is going on? Like kind of that panic. I just remember that. And then I woke up and I was like, what just happened? Like, and it
It's
was
wild.
wild
I
and
feel like
crazy.
I feel like that is such a real like that's so funny that you dreamed of that, because I feel like what's challenging about our show or a unique challenge about our show, I'm sure this challenge exists in other shows, is that like our theater, you've seen it, it's pretty small and it's so intimate, and like it's not like one of those shows where you have your principals and then like a huge ensemble behind them. There's so many more traditional shows like that. It's like especially for Artemis. I think Artemis is like an insanely hard job. So I love
I,
that there's even you are having like nightmares about going on for Artemis, because it's like really just the five of them in
Mhm.
these positions that have to go 360, and like you can tell even if there's just a little bit off. So the Artemis swings have to work so hard. I like yeah, it's so challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, I was wondering for both of you, and obviously, like, I'm sure it was the same for like Marina and Lena, but like for you, like with costumes, I know Patrick, you said like when you debuted as on, like before you were wearing some of James's stuff, but like, did you all get sort of different costumes that were specific to you, or were they specific to the tracks that you were debuting as, or were they the same if you were on for different tracks, if that makes sense? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know.
yeah,
I'm
it
just
was the
very
same.
very curious about that because it's such a unique show in the sense that not everyone's wearing the same thing all the time. Like that never happens, you know. And so yeah, like I guess what was that process of either talking to the costumers or
I
anything
think,
like that?
yeah, I think it was a very special part of the show because we, like us four swings, got individual looks for. Basically, we were a single track, with one costume,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have to switch out to other people's costume. And so basically, if we, like, for example, all the, like if I was on for Uyeon, if I was on for Team EX, I was wearing the same costume because
Mm-hmm.
it was just me. But it was so individually different from the other Fate members. That was just so unique about us, and it made us feel really good about going on because we it didn't feel like we were going on as like a cover. It felt like we were actually making a boy band debut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's super cool. And like, I don't know, Patrick, do you have anything else to say on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that. So we had our own. Everyone had their own costumes for their Fate or Artemis track. But the thing is that some of our costumes, like they only started making a little later.
Oh yeah.
So if you went on before, like when Marina first went on for Ivy, she wore a lot of Amy stuff, and she wore Amy's wig and stuff. And Amy would wear like Luna's stuff, and only later did they build that stuff. But I think for the boy band and for the girl group, like Fate and Artemis, for the swings, we had our own looks. Um, and then for the principals, like I didn't wear Zach's clothes necessarily, but when I first went on as Brad, I wore basically the exact same thing as him.
Oh,
And then my Harry costume that I got fitted was basically exactly the same as what Abby wears. And I think for Tim, his Junie costume was basically exactly what
which is a
what Jinu
problem.
wore.
I was a fiddlestick.
compared to Jinu.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the principals had some like unique looks that would have been and were repeated when swings went on. So like even when Marina went on as Ruby, like she was wearing basically the same clothes as Julie.
Hmm.
Um, but for Fate, we got to have like our own,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
our own look, our own kind of identity, visual identity. Fun little fun fact. I remember when I was doing the costume fitting for Fate, I had on this beautiful outfit, and I was like, man, I love this. And there were two options. It was for This Is My Korea. I was like, man, I really love this one. I was trying so hard. I was like, if we can go for this one, I really really like this one. And Sophia, one of our costume designers, was like, oh, we'll see. And I ended up not getting that one. I got this other one that's really nice, and I was like, oh man, who got the one I wanted? But Timothy Haechan Lee. I saw him as Wuyan. I was like, damn, that's
I
the
was like,
jacket I
oh my God,
wanted.
I love this jacket on me. And then
It's like
So
betrayal.
betrayal. But it looked great on him, so it's okay. It's okay.
No, that's hilarious. And do you guys have a favorite like number you got to perform and a favorite costume that you wore? Doesn't have to connect or anything, just like separate. I don't know, whatever you want.
it's different for each track, I think. I loved doing I love doing America for Timmy X's track. It's just, I mean, Timmy X is just such a fun dance track that like he's all over the place. He's doing everything else. So for Timmy X, I really enjoyed doing America, and for what is it? For Uyon, I remember I really enjoyed doing This Is My Korea, because that number, there's something so special about that number that just like every time we dance it out, we sing it out. Yeah, it just makes us feel something else. It's like, wow, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, yeah, for me, as Wuyan, I really love doing Superstar. I think that dance bit with Mui and Timmy X is so fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't do all the contemporary stuff that Josh knows how to do
I
and
can,
that Tim knows how to do. So
no,
Leon didn't have to do that. So I just got to do like the trio bit and then the dance break. But I think as Brad, yeah, likewise, This Is My Korea was my favorite. I think This Is My Korea and Blast Off are so special because it's the only really time like Fate and Artemis get to be together, and then Mui gets to be there and Blast Off as well. So we're all together, which is super fun. I think also selfishly as Brad, like during that bit, the little bridge, and This Is My Korea, like for the family, destiny, future, wow, yeah. Like I was such a big, and still am such a big fan of Boyoung.
Mhm.
Like I listened to her girl group Speaka back in college and stuff, and she was like my favorite. And so getting to sing that part with her always felt like a dream come true. And I remember the first time I did it, the look on her face, she was like, "Hi," like it was so fun. Um, but yeah, those are probably my favorite moments. And yeah, and the costumes for both of those were fire. So
Yeah, yeah. No, and I kept telling James, like, I love how each person, it's not an ensemble of people. It's like every single person is individual and unique, and everyone gets their own costume, which literally never happens. And to be able to like, you can distinguish every single person where Sky has that, I guess you'd call it like a kilt that Eddie's like waving, like twirling around in and just like
I
making it
know.
so cool.
oh my
Or like James and his like flamingo.
Oh my
Is what
God.
he's been calling it. And even for like Luna, I remember like with her big cape that she has during Phoenix, like when the wind is like blowing in her face, it's just like the coolest thing ever to just like watch and observe. And I'm sure for her it's like magical up there. Or it's just like being able to focus on individuality in this show, I think is something that like Broadway needs to keep doing, because like I think with Broadway and with musical theater, it's like if you're on the ensemble, everyone looks the same or everyone's kind of treated the same. Oh, you're ensemble, okay, go be like everyone else. Whereas like for K-pop, it's like, okay, you're either Team X or you're, Jake or whatever, and you get to be your own person instead of just being like someone else. Like you guys were saying, when you go on, you don't feel like a cover, you feel like you're being yourself. And I think that's really unique in the sense that like no shows ever do that, where if you're an understudy for six, you'll have the same costume. Like, yes, you get to add your own riffs or whatever, but now on Broadway, like, I think because of the union, everyone looks the same and it has to be as if nothing ever happened and like no one ever went on. And it's just like
Mm,
normal. But for K pop, it was like, I know I obviously didn't get to be there for all the shows where you went on as Brad or, you know, Leon or whatever, but getting to like see people go on and then that being celebrated instead of just pretending that it never happened, that's like really, really cool to me to see. And just like, you know, hoping that K-pop just gets to live on and like I'm hoping that there will be way more productions of it. Obviously, West Coast, Vegas, I know they were talking about, or just even a tour would be cool, or just, you know, more opportunities for more people to see a show that's just like so unique and so special to me, I know.
Us
And
too.
yeah, it's so awesome getting to just like, I guess, just like get into the world of what K-pop is, because I'm not a K-pop like fan of the actual, you know, of actual K-pop mostly. I'm just now getting into it and getting to like kind of have it as like a little gateway into that world is really, really neat. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Do you guys have a favorite line in the show, or just either it could be from Fate, like a funny line? I know I love when Leon's like, I don't know what we're talking about. Like that's one of the funniest things ever. So I mean, do you have a favorite line? Could be funny, could be serious, whatever you want.
Um, I love, and I got to do Team EX twice, which is 1.5, which is crazy. Like I got to do a mid-show swing in for Team
Mhm.
EX, and when I went in for America, I kind of went in like half prepared, but I was prepared. Um, and Team EX says this line: we sing together, we dance together, we look sexy together, and as funny this line may be, it actually means so much. It meant so much to me when I said that. It was like we we don't always have to be separated in the group. We don't always have to strive for what our individual successes are, you know. And that was the moment where all 8 of us, or all of our team, became successful together.
Mhm.
And I feel like, especially going through a BFA program and like just doing this business, living in this industry, like, or living in New York, it just becomes about my success and my, even I think about that, right? Even I sometimes have to get myself out of that to be like, wait, that's so toxic, right? And that line really helps me understand, like, the reason why us three, like, we're doing musical theater, we love musical theater, is because we have to look sexy together, we have to dance together, we have to sing together, and that's the purpose of our career. And I feel like sometimes we're so busy, caught up handling our own egos, very guilty. Yeah, so that's my favorite line.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, obviously, it's a one where everyone laughs, but I think also, especially I guess with the undertones of the fact that it's a bunch of Asian men getting to say we look sexy together, like
Right.
that in itself is just really, really cool. Just that it's able to be said. I know like Zach and John were part of like the Asian men calendar, like doing things like that to
Mm.
just kind of switch around something that has been so ingrained in people to not think that Asian men are sexy or whatever, but just like the fact that, you know, Timmy X gets to say that, and as well as bringing everyone together, it's also kind of changing a stereotype as well of getting to say, okay, this is not what you guys are thinking, isn't always the case. Like, this is what we get to be. And getting to say that on Broadway is like really cool.
Yeah.
And for you, Patrick, do you have a favorite line?
I think a line that I look forward to hearing every night was, "You want to know the 2 saddest words in all language? Singer, songwriter." The way Julie delivered that line just killed me every time, and I just thought it was so funny. And I think to say, I don't know. I think like there's a lot of like fun, like Sky and Wooyeon especially have a lot of those fun one-liners, like, yeah, like the "I'm not sure what we're talking about," or like the "I'm a conflict phobe." Like those are really fun, and like those are like, but I think the one that surprised me the most, when I went on as Brad at that time, maybe it's because I was so, when I was watching the show, especially, like, so preoccupied with like, okay, learn the track, what's this person doing, yada yada yada, like trying to keep up so much, I don't know. It felt like I wasn't actually taking in the words that much. I was just trying to learn them. I was like in a different mode of watching the show. So until I kind of said it, I didn't realize how much weight the "learn some Korean Harry" line held, and how much audiences kind of like how much it landed with them. And I remember like the first time I really felt that was like the last time I played Brad was like this Sunday show, and there was all these like Korean like church kids in the audience, and I said learn some Korean hair, and it's like I had just dropped the mic after like the sick like after one of those Hamilton cabinet battles or something. They were like, ooh, like, it was, I think because they felt that, you know what I mean, to talk back to this man for trying to like make us perform our culture in his terms, or you know what I mean, like present Koreanness through the white gaze. Like they kind of understood that, and that retaliation against that, it felt really powerful, and I don't think I had fully, maybe just because it wasn't in my body at the time, but I was like, oh wow, like I kind of didn't realize how much weight that line held, and it felt really like powerful to say it. So I was happy I got the chance to say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially with K-pop being, a bilingual show that is like never heard of really on Broadway. If like it's very sprinkled in there, but for K-pop, I think it's more like a 70-30 thing, or like even more, where it's kind of just more equal, and you don't have to know the language to really understand what's being said. Like I told James, I'm not Korean at all. Like I'm fully Taiwanese. Like and I can't speak Mandarin either. I wish I could. But, getting to like just understanding the feeling of what's being said, like you don't need to know every single word of the show to understand what they're trying to say. And I think that especially needs to be told to everyone. I mean, there's so many people who love K-pop where you don't always know what is being said specifically, but you get to understand what the feeling of that is, and getting to just appreciate a language that you may not know, or trying to learn phrases or learn whatever you can about that. And that's like, something where people just need to be open to hearing those kinds of things. And I think with the line,
Hmm.
like, learn some Korean, Harry, like, Harry, you're working for a label that has all these K-pop groups. Like, you didn't think to maybe, do some more research. Like, maybe, maybe that line will make him try to shift his viewpoint, even though he did get fired. But,
What
um,
a bozo.
just like getting to open yourself up to newness. And I think that's a cool thing that K-pop did for Broadway, opening it up to something new, that's something that's never been seen before. And that's really cool that this show got to do that, and that it's probably one of the first ones where it's like a completely new concept and completely new way of getting to see things, or it's done by us and done on our own terms. And that's really special. And for you both, like, did you get to, what was like your pre-show like rituals? Did you have any? Or like if you weren't even on, like, what did you guys do, I guess, in your dressing rooms? Uh, oh.
Tim, you're muted, my friend.
Sorry. I was from Patrick's my Super Smash Bros. Sensei. He has taught me everything about that game. I am so much. No, I'm kidding. But we played that game. But I think, when we weren't on stage, we were always so. It was either we were so busy learning lines or doing the dance, because Fate comes out and Fate goes away for a while, and Fate comes out again. So we're just like, whenever the Fate music comes out, we all stand up and we do the dance in our little corners. We go over the tracks, and then we just sit down and then we do our own things. I think we talked a lot. We talked a lot about our future, like what we want to do, like what we're gonna do. And for me, when I had the show, I was so busy doing my makeup, like I was I was a hot mess. Like we're like, wait, what side, like how are we gonna do this? And it always felt so rushed, and until the moment you're on stage. And yeah, it's like, as a swing, you don't, like, having a ritual is it's a very luxury. Like you don't really get that time. You're just like, even till the last minute, you're trying to think about the position or the dance or the line. Yeah.
Yeah, and for you, Patrick, like, did you get to have I know you obviously said you went on like a few times in a row. Like, did you ever develop anything like that?
No, oh my God. I feel like honestly, that's that's part of what I was looking forward to, and part of, just a small part of the shame that our run got cut so short, is that I was really looking forward to both both like in scenarios where I'm not going on and scenarios where I am going on, like building that kind of ritual, building that kind of consistency. Because like Tim said, like we had we kind of bounced between things, and it worked. Like we would, yeah, some days we were really hard at work, other days we were like fully playing Switch the entire show. Like we would, like or chatting or whatever. Sometimes the swings, I don't know. There were times when the swings would just chat in the most random places. There was one day where we just chatted in the stairwell for almost the entire show, and people would be going up, like going down, being like, "Why are you guys here?" We're like, "We don't know." So yeah, and when when we were in shows, I think like most of the shows that we were on was during preview, so we had rehearsals during the day, so it was already so hectic because we were either getting new information or because we were like doing so much stuff during the day that by the time we reached showtime, it was like, hey, did you eat, did you get your makeup on, okay, just go. I don't think I made it for Places Call once. Like I was always so behind. So yeah, I don't think we necessarily developed a ritual, but I do think we developed this other kind of maybe skill, which was like going with the flow and being ready to pivot at like a moment's notice. Which is also really, really hard. It's having a ritual is nice because you know what to expect every time, but I think it takes a certain type of brain training to be like, be ready for anything. Don't get comfortable, but don't get too comfortable, So yeah, hopefully in some other iteration of K-pop where we're all there, we'll get to build new rituals and yeah, do that.
Yeah, and like, can you talk a little bit about, for both of you, like the K-pop Broadway's like swings page and all that, like getting to make TikToks and do it, like whose idea was that? Who created it? Who was kind of like the I guess initiator of all of that fun?
Who was it? I
think it was me.
Yeah, I think
I think I started it, like the
Yeah,
idea,
yeah.
because I saw that the Into the Woods understudies had an Instagram page,
Yes.
and I was like, guys, we should be like them. But I definitely, and I'd be like, oh, here's the trend we should do, or here's like a whatever. But I think execution wise, like getting the videos out, that was more Marina and Lena. They were a lot better at like staying on top of that.
Because I know Lena does a lot of like social media stuff and like so I was wondering like who kind of started that, because I know that's something I would definitely do, like especially with my, I guess, social media background. Like that is definitely something that I would like want to do, like, hey guys, let's make a page for, like you said, with Into the Woods, and kind of just making a space where everyone can kind of like support all the covers and at least get to know all of them, even though they're not always on stage, but they're just as important as every other person in the building. And kind of pivoting a little bit, like you said, being ready for anything. For Tim, at one of the curtain calls, I remember, was it the one where you got to go on full show for Timmy X, or half, I don't know, but you were able to do like a traditional Korean deep bow for your parents on a Broadway stage. And what was that moment like for you? Like, was it something that you had always wanted to do for them, like once they got to see it, or was it just something you thought of maybe once they came? And just what was the story behind that?
It definitely wasn't planned at all. Even until that day, I wasn't sure if I was gonna go on as Team X because my parents had already bought the tickets a long time ago. That was the night that they were coming, and Josh was generously offering that night off for me, but it was crazy because the day before we found out the show's closing, and it wasn't at any position where I could have brought up like, hey, what about me? Like my parents are here. I didn't even want to do that. But Josh, like just to give a shout out to him again, being so generous, he was like, he told the stage managers like, this is more than ever why I should call out right now and he should go on because we won't get any more chances. And Jason DePinto and Josh really fought for me on Tuesday night to go on, and I got a confirmation on Tuesday night that I was going to go on for the night show. I didn't know Josh was really gonna get sick. I just knew that. And the Korean traditional bow was definitely something I didn't think I'd do. It was like I was thinking about what I should do for my parents that they flew from Korea to see me, and like all the things that they've done for me to be on Broadway stage. And I just couldn't think of anything else but to give them the biggest gratitude that I could show. I didn't know if that was even allowed. I knew TMX had the longest. He has what, 2 accounts? Like his first account is to like hype the crowds up, and his second account is to bow. I was like, screw that. I'm just gonna be like, hey, bow. And it was definitely one of the most, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so happy I did that because I feel like I'll never be able to do that again. Like it was so special.
Mhm.
And my parents didn't even know what I was doing. Like it was like, what are you doing? Like they were like, why are you bowing? Like they didn't even know I was doing it for them. I had to
Mhm.
explain it to them after. But it doesn't really matter, right? It was like it really was for me to express my gratitude. And yeah, it was definitely one of the most amazing night I've ever had. Despite of it was very also mixed feelings. Like our show's closing, but I get to do the show in front of my parents. Like yeah. uh, it
Mhm.
was a
At least
lot. It was a
it
lot.
happened, and that
Yeah.
was, I saw the videos and I was like, oh my gosh, that is just so special. And also, the fact that everyone gets their own solo bow, like that's also very cool.
Oh
And
my
like
God,
giving
yes.
you the ability to do that for your parents and give that special moment. Because I know if you're in a different show, like that probably wouldn't have been able to happen unless you were like in a principal track or something. But the fact that you were able to, pay tribute to your parents in such a beautiful way, and like that the fact that they didn't know it was for them, like, it's just we give all the gratitude to our parents, the people who support us. I know for me, like I'm very blessed that my parents are very supportive of my decision to try and pursue musical theater and Broadway, I guess. And so it's just like you want to give them all the honor and all of the things, and that's really really special, and I'm so glad you were able to do that. And for Patrick, like just specifically for you being half Korean, like what did it mean to you to tell Brad's story as a biracial Korean performer? Because I know that that is such a different experience that isn't really talked about where people are half, or like I have cousins who are half and they've talked to me about their experience and different things like that. So like just what was that like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I really it was so special. I feel like I've never in my like any audition or even in like most plays I've read have never like encountered like a mixed race character, let alone like auditioned for one or got the chance to play one. I mean, I'm a mixed race person. I would be mixed race wherever I go, of course. But this was the first and kind of only character so far I've gotten to play that is intentionally written as so. And Brad gets to dive into it and he talks about, his mom, he talks about food and a bit of like his past and stuff. And I think I was always really fascinated with his relationship with fate too, as being, this sort of outsider to the group, but wanting to fit in. And it's a journey that I relate to a lot. And I feel like, especially as a mixed race person, am I Asian enough to be part of an Asian community? Am I or am I always this like in between kind of like not neither belonging here nor there kind of person? Um, so yeah, to be able to take up space with that story and even get like a whole song about it, was incredible. And it wasn't a given that I would ever play Brad at all necessarily, in this run because it's all contingent uh on Zach, So so yeah, I'm so grateful that I got the chance to do that. And yeah, and to be honest, I don't know if I'll ever get to do that kind of role again. Like I hope I do, and not necessarily just Brad, but to get to dive even deeper into the experience of what it means to be mixed race. Um, yeah, getting a taste of it was addictive, um, and it made me set higher expectations for what I want and what I feel like I can have as a performer and the types of roles that could be out there for me, and for what I hope for in theater. Because I think I remember like a long time ago, someone to ask me like, "What's your dream role?" And back in high school, I was like, "Oh, I want to play like Mark from Rent, or I want to play like Evan Hansen or whatever." Um, uh, but I don't know. I feel like being in the industry, even I haven't been in it for that long, but like being in it, like and not seeing people like yourself. When I got asked what my dream role was, I was like, I actually have no idea because I just feel like I can't play anything. Who am I? Who's out there that is like me? Um, and I get so inspired when I see other mixed race people up there. Like I saw Zach and Dear Evan Hansen. That I'm looking at George Salazar. I'm looking
Yeah.
at Conrad Ricamora. I'm watching all of these guys out there doing their thing. Um, but um, but yeah, so to get to take up space with that story and kind of put my own footprint in it and bring my own self to it, in like a different way than Zach would and in a different way than Major would, because Major also covers Brad. I think is fascinating and so fun, and I think it's such a multi-layered experience that yeah, I hope I get to just dive deeper into as I snake down my career and progress my way through. Not snake, oh my God, what a terrible word to use. But
Yeah.
Snake.
No, I think I understand what you mean. Like, obviously not as mixed race, but just being Asian American, not really knowing exactly where you fit. And like you said, with Conrad, like I got to see Conrad as Seymour, and it kind of showed me like I have a place in one of my favorite shows of all time now. Where like actually right after closing, I literally went and saw Little Shop that night. Um,
amazing.
and like getting to do, see things like that where you have a place in these shows that have been predominantly portrayed as either white roles or just a show where you can't quite, see yourself in. Where like now I'm like, okay, maybe I could be like Sonoma or something where, Julia's Filipino or like even Kate, like Kate is Taiwanese and I'm Taiwanese. And that's like really cool to me because I don't think I've ever seen another Taiwanese person on a Broadway stage. So it's like that part of your culture and getting to like identify, or I'm sure like all of the mixed kids or Korean kids like got to see both of you and be like, hey, that's me. I could be, new dream role or something like that. Um, and for you both, like, I know we haven't really talked too much about closing, but can you just express like what you were feeling the day of the closing show? Because not both of you were watching. Were you like both in standing room maybe? Because I know that's when we met was at intermission and like I just
Yes.
see you guys hanging out and like I was like okay I gotta go talk to them. And just what were the emotions if you guys were in the back like dancing, and just getting to get to experience a show that you worked so hard on, and what did it feel like to because you guys got your own special bow, which is obviously really cool. So, what did it feel like to take that final bow and just kind of say goodbye to a show that you love so much?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It feels at first, I think when we heard the news, it was a constant roller coaster of can we make it happen until Friday night. We were constantly fighting
Mhm.
to extend this show. We were doing everything we could. And we finally heard on Friday night, like, no, we can't do it anymore. I think that's when it hit me the hardest. Like, I, yeah, and I, I couldn't stand watching the show. Like, I, I thought I cried all my tears out of my body. And yet, if I watched the show one more time, I was just bawling, crying. So emotionally, that week was just like constantly crying, and celebrating this great show because it was completely sold out every night, and every night was just like we were crying until what, like 6:30 p.m. and we had to do a show at 7. Like every night it was just up and downs were crazy. The cast, the atmosphere, it was just so weird. It's something I never thought I have to go through.
Mhm.
So to put that in a one word, I don't know how to, but the closing night was very bitter and very sad. Uh, to be honest, somewhat defeated at the fact that
Mm.
we it just sometimes it felt like we lost in some way. And we had to constantly remind ourselves that we already created a history on Broadway, that we've made history on Broadway. And this is a spark of a new beginning for the new era of Broadway history. And we did that. So I think I was constantly reminding myself to like be okay with it.
Mhm.
But as one individual, one actor, just I was very sad. I was very in denial, and I didn't know how to cope with it. I truly didn't.
Yeah, and before Patrick talks, like, I don't know, because I saw both the second to last show and the last show, and I don't know if you guys know, but I actually waited for 4 hours for the cancellation line, for the last show. Like, I
You
got there
told us this at
at
intermission.
10:44.
I remember this. Oh my God.
I waited with like, and I made new friends and, got to talk to all these
Oh,
people, but like, we didn't get our tickets till half hour, and I knew I
oh,
wanted to be there so bad. and like just waiting for them to be like, okay, you can come in and get your tickets. Like I was so stressed out where like I barely ate anything all day. I was like trying
Oh
to
my
like
God.
warm and just like the moment I got in there, I was like, okay, this is like magic. Like I wanted to be there so bad and to see the last show and get to see, you know, the panel and get to talk to all these different people and like getting to just be in the energy of the same of the room and getting to see the show for the last time. Like that was magical to me. And also like on the second to last show, seeing you guys like up in the standing room like dancing and like starting the chanting for Fate, like that was just really cool to me. I was like, hey, they're over there. Like, wait a minute. Just like making sure that, you know, everyone's loving the show and getting to like you know, have the best experience. So yeah, I was just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, for you, Patrick, what was it? I guess what was it like just that, you know, final week, I guess, just supporting everyone, getting to be there and just celebrating what you guys have done.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, like, can I just say, I remember watching your video after you first saw it. I think you made a video after you first saw it, being like, "I'm gonna try to get a ticket, but I don't think I'll be able to see it again." And you were so you were so sad, and I felt so moved by all the videos you made about K-pop. I watched all of them. I think I shared like all of them too. And I remember being like, God, I wish I could get her a ticket. And then when you made it for the last show, I was like, when you said hi, I was like, oh my God, you made. I literally was thinking of you because I was like, oh my God, I should have like I should have fought harder to get you a ticket. I can't believe you waited that long, but I'm so happy you got there. But oh my God, what were we talking about the last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, the last week. Um, yeah, I had found out it was actually kind of crazy. Like I had found out early from a friend. Um, someone found out early and called me to tell me that this is what we were going to find out because we had a meeting called on like Tuesday morning. And I had a feeling, I had this like gut-wrenching feeling that I knew what it was going to be. And someone called me to be like, hey, like this is what it's going to be, just so you know. And I was like, oh God. And so I was carrying around this like awful like weight in my stomach. And I remember I went to eat at a restaurant with one of my friends that day before the show. I just needed to talk about it, and I just needed to like whatever. And I was sitting down. It was in K-Town, and I was sitting down waiting for my friend in this restaurant. I was sitting just like, oh my God, we're closing so soon. Did our show? Did we even have time for it to matter? Like, did people see it? Da 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 da. And then this girl was sitting 2 seats away from me. She was like, "Excuse me." I was like, "Huh?" And she was like, "Are you on Broadway?" I was like, "Uh-huh." I was like, Yeah." And she was like, "Oh my God." And she was this Korean girl. Basically, she was saying, like, "I saw your show. It meant so much to me. I cried during This Is My Korea because I'd never seen myself." And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is this sign from the universe right now? And she was so sweet. Her name was Christine, and she's so nice. She came to our show again after that. Um, and this was while I was on at Sky, actually. So I was supposed to be on almost the entire closing week, but I ended up only being on for half of it, I think. But yeah, so when we found out, I mean, closing wasn't what the day we found out was like an insane day. There were so many feelings. And I remember going on that night, and that, you know, that whole like crazy dance break in Superstar.
Mm.
Um, I don't think I've ever danced that way in my life. I felt like my body was like on fire. I felt like I was like exploding. I've never felt that way dancing before, and I could feel it on stage. All of us were feeling it because we were, yeah, like Tim said, we had this determination. We're like, we're not done here. We're doing this, and you know, even if it was just for that moment, like it just like that sun on the floor kind of felt like it was like pulsing through our bodies, you know. Um, yeah, so I mean that was crazy, and then the rest of the week um was just so emotional. Yeah, we'd be going anywhere from just like sobbing to laughing to cheering, you know, all the swings. We made sure to watch the concert almost every night. um and and the crowd also kind of took on like a new role in that last week, and you know, would start giving standing ovations mid show, and you know, just having these huge moments of applause and call and response kind of moments. It was really really wild, you know, and almost helped me personally see like, oh, this is what our show is. This is like at its best, this is what our show is. This is how the audience should be behaving, you know, having the most fun with us on stage. um and I was saying, I think I said this to Tim and maybe some of the other swings, but I was saying how I think because we weren't on stage for most of the week, we actually got kind of a leg up in terms of having time to process, because all the time we weren't doing the show, you know, even just the literal details of, we got to clean out our dressing room first, we got to sit down and talk, we got to sit down and cry, and like da 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 da. We didn't have to like kind of put on our game faces for the show in the same way. We got to go to the concert and just bawl our eyes out with each other, and hold each other, you know, and make space for that. So by the time we got to our closing show, I don't know, I think I share a lot of that bitterness, and I share a lot of that kind of anger. And at the same time, I think I went in feeling, I was like, it's time for me to just be the most ideal audience member and be the K-pop super fan and just jump up and like, you know, probably distract as many of my castmates as I can, you know, by screaming and yelling and doing all this stuff. Um and then, you know, I felt so nice too that we got to have like our bow together at the end, which felt really organized. And we got to wear costumes together, and all the four of us got to like do it together, which just felt so right. And I felt so honored to share that moment with Tim, Marina, and Lena. Yeah, and I felt, you know, beyond the bitterness, I felt very proud of what we did. And actually, Ashley, I think it was so fitting that you were kind of the last question of that night too, at the Q&A, because I was like, that, you know, you are a perfect example of what this show's legacy is, for real. Like, you really are, and you are one example of the people that this show has reached, and that will hopefully feel, you know, empowered to bring their identity and bring yourself to whatever future musical theater things you do, Broadway and beyond, you know. And while obviously I wish that we had been able to reach more people, and I still sit with that feeling, it felt like a very hopeful note to kind of end the night on, kind of, is that. And then, you know, we went and had truly upwards of 1 billion speeches right after the show. We all kind of, as a company, debriefed like through speeches. But yeah, so I definitely a bunch of mixed feelings, but I do feel grateful that the brunt of those really raw, those really sort of reactionary feelings that came out of that news, and that really disappointing news, I felt like I got to sort of get it out of my system a little bit throughout the week, and process things. And even though I think there's still a lot still percolating in my brain and in my heart, and um I have a little more sense of how I feel about things now, and the dust is beginning to settle just a little bit, and I'm beginning to find peace with it as well. But yeah, that was sort of what the last week was like for me.
There are some cast members who are, you know, especially people who are on stage every night. It's very hard for them to.
Yeah.
It's really hard for them to, like, they need to take extra care of themselves to come at peace.
Yeah. To do a show, like, and then, you know, process those things. And like, okay, quick question. Were you guys able to hear the whole panel in backstage? Or was it
No, I was in the audience during.
I was in the audience too.
Okay. I was like wondering, because I was like, I wonder if they can hear me, because I was talking to Julie and she was like, I don't know how we're going to be involved with the panel, and like I had no idea if anyone was like, other than just, you know, I know there are a few people in the audience, but it was just like very emotional, I think, in getting to be so close to like Helen, and you know, John was there, and like just like bawling my eyes out in front of everyone there was like one of the most special moments of my entire life. And I know it like really kind of just made the whole, you know, closing kind of concrete, and made it all kind of worth it, that you know, I took a red eye to get there. And so like getting to just do that, and getting to be in New York for just a few days just for K-pop was really special, and getting to experience, you know, David Henry Hwang's like wisdom, and everyone else's who's also a part of the panel, and getting to celebrate everyone. And I know I got to hear some of the speeches on some, like, a video that people with Asia Society put together, and like getting to hear those speeches too, about like, you know, with Kevin or Luna or Julie, or like anyone who just got to speak that night, like getting to hear that was really nice. And getting to know that, you know, it was a celebration by the end. It wasn't like, oh, our show's closing, like we're, you know, gonna just be sad. It was like, okay, let's take this and kind of use the energy to celebrate what has been done. And like getting to just see like what the show has done for so many people. I know, especially for me and so many others, like who also wanted to wait in that cancellation line for as long as we did. And for you, like, I know now, we're just kind of waiting for the album to come out. Like, what is like, what was it like immortalizing those beautiful songs in the studio and just getting to be there with the rest of the cast? Yeah. Just so that, K-pop can have a future, especially on like online, and so that more people who didn't get to actually see it get to listen to it. So, but
Yeah, I think I'm excited to we are excited for that album. Personally, I think it's more like a lot of us actors are trying to cope with this situation, right? And I think I mean, for me personally, if there's another K-pop show that's gonna happen, or if there's a huge wave that's gonna be made with the album, like I would so hop on that and begin this journey again. But I don't uh I don't know. It feels so far away right now, to be honest. It just feels far away. February feels so far away. And
Mhm.
um just I don't know, it's a holiday season and everybody's like kind of like quiet because we've been so loud. We've been so loud for the past week of closing, and just like we're just all decompressing now. I don't know. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm really excited to hear the album and how those songs kind of exist the like in the like in like recorded in a recorded form, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've only ever heard these songs either through Helen's demos and learning them, or in the live show, you know? And K-pop is so interesting as like a genre just of music, because I find it sounds really different recorded and live. It's bound to, like, it's created for to be recorded, you know what I mean? That music is made for studios. And so hearing it live and hearing it recorded, just K-pop in general, is always such a different experience. So it's going to be interesting having the reverse experience with this, where there are songs like like Gin and Tonic that like you could definitely hear on the radio, something like that. But I've only ever seen it in the full blown production. So I'm really excited to see how those exist and how they're produced, and how they what kind of life they'll have after the album is out. And I think, I don't know, getting to record it in the studio felt just like, I mean, I've only kind of done that once before for like this like really at like a university for like some really small thing. I've never really recorded music in a professional like studio or whatever until then. Um, but I don't know. I felt the energy was really, really hype when we did it, and like I remember like recording Hundero and like having like the best time, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, if a fraction of that energy makes it kind of can translate into the recorded version, then I think, yeah, I'm really excited to see like how people respond to that, and I hope people love it, and I hope if people came to the show, then they love it, and I hope when people listen to it, if they didn't get to come to the show, that they'll find love for it. And who knows, in my ideal world, we get like a Beetlejuice situation where people love it so much and we get to come back to Broadway or something.
yeah.
That would be amazing. We hope, but I think it's enough for me if if it just comes out and it makes a bunch of people happy. And whatever the future is, who knows, right? Like Tim said, February feels so far away, and I'm
Mhm.
trying not to get my expectations too
Exactly.
far in any place. But what I will say is, yeah, I'm going to be like streaming Super Goddess on repeat. Like, that's like, I can't wait. Because I wasn't there. We weren't there for the Artemis song, so
Yeah.
we don't know what they're going to sound like. And I mean, they always sound amazing, so I can't wait. Yeah, so I have no idea, and I'm just excited to listen to it. That's one concrete thing I know I will do, and I know I can expect, is to stream it and to love it. And
Mhm.
anything else that happens is just a sweet little bonus.
Yeah, and I know, like, I mean, they were playing a few of the songs, I think, at like the rally event that was happening.
Hmm.
I was there too, and I remember seeing like Tim. You're in like what, like a button-up shirt. I was like, how is he not like dying of cold? Like,
Fired up.
We were fired up.
yeah, no, and just like because for some of those songs, I was hearing them for the very first time because I hadn't seen the show yet. And like also, just getting to like experience, because my friend Carly, she was like, "Oh my God, I want them to play Super Goddess." I'm like, I don't know that song yet. Getting to like hear it and see people also do like the gin and tonic dance, like that was super fun. And also I don't know if you guys know, but there's actually a K-pop super fan group on like Instagram. It's like a group chat.
Oh my
I'm a
God.
part of it. And so like we're all texting and like updating each other on like different things that you guys are doing, or like I know some of them are saying like for the album, hope there's like an album release concert or a party or something. So just putting it out there, who knows who could listen to this and be like, hey, maybe
Oh
we
my
can do
God.
that.
Um,
From your
Yeah.
words to Helen Park's ears.
it's not that far. It's
We
not
hope
that
so.
far.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
I'm
would
like,
hope so as well.
Helen, do another 54 Below show. Like that would be super fun. And like hopefully I would be able to go see it. Yeah, and so to wrap this thing up, I mean, this has been an incredible, I guess like 2 hours, which is thank you so much. Like what is your advice to all of the young Asian or Asian American kids who will hear this album or will get exposed to K-pop in some form, either by YouTube videos or really anything? Like, what is your advice to the kids who pretty much want to do what you're doing, which is like people like me? Yeah.
Mm. Um, yeah, let's see. I have so many words. I wish I could. It's such a tough road because we're already putting on many different layers for our identity to be in this industry. However, if if we keep making changes like this a bit by bit, it because through K-pop I've seen it. I've seen that changes can be made, and I've seen that the mountains can be moved. And I didn't know that was possible. Even I was so resistant to that. I was so busy following up the trend that the white Broadway community had already created. So I guess the advice I want to give is please keep creating, please keep trying despite of don't let your the weakness that you think you have is actually the strength you have, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So don't be scared, don't be afraid to show that weakness, because that for me that weakness was my ethnicity and my accent, and um and that's what brought me to Broadway. So yeah, keep loving yourself, loving your weakness. Yeah.
And for you, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean that's so such a big question. I think like maybe it's in line with what Tim said as well, but um something I think that I inadvertently did in my path, and not to say that I did it perfectly or but it's something I felt quite self-conscious about, was that like, I didn't go to school, I didn't get like a traditional musical theater training or anything like that. I just like sang what I like to sing. I don't really, I can't do like ballet, I can't do tap or anything. Like I just, most of my dance training comes from like doing K-pop covers, you know what I mean? And I did it just out of love for it, just because I loved K-pop, and I never ever thought that it would lead me to um musical theater, let alone a K-pop Broadway musical. And I think, but I think part of the reason, I don't know, the logic that I think goes with that, or the through line in that I see, is that I think it's so much more worthwhile to be honest with yourself about like, what is it that you like to do? What is it within musical theater? If you even break it down, what is it within musical theater that you like to do? Do you like to sing? Cool. What kind of stuff do you like to sing? Do you like singing pop? Do you like singing like classical? Like what do you like to sing? Do that. I think in musical theater, especially, there's this pressure to be everything. There's this like golden idea we have of like a triple threat. Like you have to be amazing at acting, you have to be amazing at dancing, you have to be amazing at singing. And within that, there's already so many sub branches, and it's like, no, but you have to be amazing at all of them. And I just think that is not true, and not a useful use of your time to try to be everywhere and to try to be everything, because there are things already within you that you love, that you will be drawn towards. And I think it is so much more worthwhile to direct your energy to those things. So if you want to be like a classical Phantom of the Opera soprano, then put your eggs in that basket, and don't put them in the basket that don't put them in a basket that you're not interested in, you know? I think ballet is a beautiful type of dance. I don't think I'm gonna put any eggs in that basket, you know, because I'm just not interested in it. It's not the type of dance I'm drawn to. Like I don't necessarily want to do that. And yeah, I think maybe it's similar to what maybe Tim is saying too. It's like be the type of performer that you know that you dream of being, not the type of performer you think Broadway wants you to be. Because if we were all the type of performers Broadway wanted us to be, we'd all be like white people doing like revival shows, you know. um and and with K-pop, I think like I hope people can take from K-pop and see it as just one possibility of what theater for Asian Americans and Asians can look like. You know, Tim once said to me in a moment where I was really down, like, you know, like even for us, like K-pop is just, you know, one springboard into like who knows what. You know, we don't know what comes after. We don't know what kind of theater. We don't even know what kind of life the show will have after this. But it is something, is boosting us up as well. Like we always talk about it as something that boosts up, you know, young people and people like you, Ashley, like people within the community. But I think it's that for us as well. And we don't know what we're being kind of sprung into, but we're all in that together. And so as long as we stay true to what we genuinely want to do, which, you know, can be close to our culture or close to just like, you know, the stuff we grew up with or whatever, I think the closer we get to actualizing that version of theater or musical theater or media, whatever, that we actually will feel the most authentically represented by, versus like be an amazing tap dancer and an amazing this and an amazing that. Just be an amazing you. And I think that's perfect. And that's going to make the best kind of art out there.
Yeah, no, thank you both. I know, Tim, you're saying the whole thing about like your weakness, taking that. Like, I think for me, I see my Asianness as such like a strong point of like who I am and what I'm trying to do. But it's just like, I think in my community that I'm in right now, it's trying to make them see that. They're not quite doing that, but just, trying to branch out and make it a thing that I put in the forefront instead of something that I will hide behind. And like you said, Patrick, like not having to be a perfect ballet dancer. Like I am not going to be that. Like I can't do a double pirouette, whatever. Like, just trying to like be who you are authentically and not trying to be what other people are trying to make you, and just making sure that you're true to yourself and true to what you want to be in terms of like being a performer or being someone in the media, really doing whatever your heart tells you to, because I think everyone in this world, like the people who succeed aren't people who fit in, they're people who really try to make strides and try to be unique. Like not everyone who is, super, super famous. Like everyone has something that's super unique to them, and getting to like see that in yourself before, and just trying to show the rest of the world that, I think is the most powerful thing that you can do as a performer and as a person, and just being able to see that before other people do, and then trying to help other people see that, especially being Asian American and having that as something that maybe people see as a weakness but you see as your greatest strength. So thank you both so much. I know like this has been the greatest gift, getting to experience K-pop, getting to be introduced to the genre also. I know I'm usually a Broadway girl, but just getting to see the different styles of dance. Like now, I want to take a K-pop class or do something that is a little bit outside of what I'm used to, and getting to experience a form of theater that is so unique and something that I really want to be a part of someday. Like, if there's a regional or
You
even
already are,
like,
man.
Yeah,
You
you're
already
already
are
part of
part
it.
of it. You're
You're
part of it.
just
You're
like
part of
any
it.
production of K-pop, like cast me. I want to be an Artemis right now.
You will.
You're in. You
Alright.
have it. Listen,
Yeah.
you're already.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, lastly, like how can we support both of you? Like whether it be on social media, TikTok, Instagram, like I don't know, I guess kind of just plug yourself right now just so we can keep supporting you. And
Yeah.
getting
Oh,
to
that's so
see all
sweet.
the amazing stuff that you guys are doing.
I mean, personally, as an actor, I will continue. I'm still auditioning. I'm still trying to make my, way out to. One thing I realized after doing Broadway was like, it's not over. Like you reach Broadway and you think it's over. No, it's just the beginning. It's a springboard for us to lift higher. So I'm still striving to be a better version of myself than yesterday. So yeah, I Instagram, TikTok. I do YouTube channel called Tim B-Way, Tim B-Way. It's for Korean audiences and American audiences. I explain to them about Broadway musicals so that people outside of this country can understand what Broadway is before they come to New York and try to figure out what it is. So maybe subscribe for that. Yeah, I'm just you guys can find me easily everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, for you, Patrick,
Uh,
same, just like Instagram, probably TikTok.
I guess so. Definitely don't follow me on TikTok. I definitely don't post anything on TikTok worth seeing. But I feel like just saying that is an invitation. But truly, there's nothing going on there. There's not. Yeah, I guess if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Patrick Park. Also, just trying to figure my stuff out and get on track and stuff. And I'm not the best at posting or sharing my adventures all the time, but I'm trying to get better at it.
It's okay, I can
So
teach you.
okay, yeah, please, I need
No,
an
teach
instruction because
me.
I'm not
Social media
good.
lessons.
Yeah, for real, I need that. I need an intro because I'm not very good at it. But I will try to be posting stuff there, and if you even want to add K-pop B-Way Swings, who knows what's
Oh
gonna
my
happen with
gosh.
that
No,
with
yes,
that
of course.
Instagram page, but it's still there, so we'll have to do something with it.
Yeah. I know, keep following everyone. Follow K-pop Broadway, K-pop UA Swings on TikTok as well, because they
Oh
post
God.
so much fun stuff. And just thank you both so much for just being a part of my podcast, getting to just talk about a show that the three of us love so much now, and just praying and hoping for a better future for K-pop where everyone can really appreciate what an incredible show it is, because like I said earlier, like K-pop really did every single thing that I wanted Broadway to do in these last 3 years, where we've kind of had a reckoning of like, okay, what do we want Broadway to move forward as? We can't keep doing the same things. And like, the fact that 18 Asian people were able to make the Broadway debuts in this show and get to do it in such a unique way, get to introduce K-pop to Broadway, get to have swings on the album, getting to have everyone be so supportive. Like, we need to keep getting that back, because I don't think we can keep moving forward the same way that we are. Like, it's not how I want things to keep going. It's not how most people, I don't think, want Broadway to keep moving forward as. So we're just going to keep fighting, keep shining light on K-pop. I know I've pretty much been posting nothing but K-pop since the week that you guys announced that it was closing, and making sure I get all of those posts out, just if I can reach 1, 10, 20, 100 people with a post like that. That is really all I'm trying to do here, and just trying to show the world that, hey, we're something really unique, but that is really where our strengths lie, and the fact that everything can be different. K-pop isn't like, Anne Juliet or something like everything is so different, and that is where Broadway needs to be very strong in, whereas nothing has to be the same. So thank you so much for just being a part of this. Thank you to everyone who will be listening to this. Make sure to follow me at Broadway Corner with Ashley on Instagram, and Broadway_corner on, I don't know, everything. And thank you guys for being a part of this. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you next time. Oh
Bye.
my gosh.